What's up guys, Card Boss here, back in another video where we talk cards, money, investing. Today we got an interesting topic, specifically on card hobby, right? And on the topic of shill bidding, everybody's favorite topic. And more specifically, I'm going to talk about my own personal experience and what I think that card hobby is doing right to combat shill bidding. Stick around. Alright, welcome back guys. So let's talk a bit briefly about card hobby. Pretty sure some of you guys are pretty familiar about this. It's originated from China. Okay, it's almost, I would say, the eBay equivalent for cards and collectibles, mainly cards. Okay, so they operate roughly similar, and predominantly their market is covering the Greater China and most of Asia. Most recently, they've kind of expanded to other parts of the world. So there's cardhobby.us as well, which is pretty popular on Instagram if you do follow them. So what I've noticed recently, now I previously have not used card hobby prior to December of last year, okay, December 2024. And the reason being is because I read a lot about issues with their logistics system. How it's a bit different from eBay is basically the seller sends to the card hobby warehouse, and from the card hobby warehouse, you're able to actually consolidate your shipments back to you. And it was a huge bottleneck on their end, which resulted delays in packages. People waited like up to months, to get their stuff. And I believe Card Hobby even issued a public apology on all these delays. But when I met up some of the reps when I was in the Hong Kong show, they've assured me that the logistics system has all been sorted and everything is smooth flowing. And I personally have been using Card Hobby for slightly over a month now, or roughly about a month, and I'm pretty pleased with the logistics. The packages are coming on time, right? But for this particular video, I actually noticed a couple of things. And one of the things that people talk about, especially sellers from China, is the amount of shill bidding that's happening on eBay. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of the sellers that you see on eBay having all their listings being shilled, relisted 3, 4, 5 times as well. And in Card Hobby, where most of the listings come from China, you would expect to see an amount of shill bidding happening over there as well. Now, I am pretty certain that there is shill bidding in Card Hobby platform itself, but as far as I'm concerned, they have done several things right in terms of trying to mitigate this or trying to reduce this, which other platforms are not doing. So in this video, I'm going to share what they're doing differently, and hopefully maybe it'll give you some confidence to even consider using their system. Let's start from the very beginning, right? Brand new user, have not created an account, so you sign up for a Card Hobby account, okay? And you go through the usual registration process, and there's a verification step as well. This is pretty common. Some of the current platforms that are on Godin, on Alt, okay, all requires you to do ID verification as well as a phone verification, whereby they'll send you a SMS to your registered phone account to make sure that's you. So all these are all pretty common up to this point, okay? And that's when you have created your account. Now, of course, you are required to add in your payment methods, your own credit card, and the credit cards needs to be verified as well. So again, all these are pretty common, even up to what eBay is doing, okay? So everything's consistent so far. Now, let's talk, before I spend a bit of time about Card Hobby, what they do differently, let's talk about a bit of others as well. May look at Alt. So Alt recently implemented kind of like a must-pay system, okay, whereby once you actually bid on an item and you have, you could choose to pay with any of your payment methods within a certain period of time, but at the end of 7 days, if you have not paid for your item, you'll automatically be charged for your purchase, okay? So that's one of the ways for them to combat shill bidding, okay? So how about the other platforms? I don't think Godin has one of these auto pay, automatic payments as well. eBay has automatic payments, but eBay eBay, the issue is the ability to cancel an order from the seller's point of view is very simple. So, you don't even get to the point of an auto pay. The moment the auction ends, before the auto pay kicks in, which is about 60 minutes, I believe, the seller can just straight away cancel. Okay. Now, what Card Hobby is doing differently? So, when you sign up for a new account as a brand new user, you have zero feedback. Okay, unlike Fanatics Collect, unlike Goldin, there is no feedback system. Their only feedback system is on eBay, and eBay actually, of course, has some restrictions when you have the feedback system. Right, there's only a certain number of cards you can bid, and based on a certain value and things like that. Okay, when you start off with zero feedback, but when it comes to Card Hobby, okay, the restrictions in place are pretty interesting. Okay, first and foremost, you are allowed to only bid one item at a time, okay, when you have less than 5 feedback. Now, why is this important, right? So how does shill bidding works? You basically create a dummy account, just saying, right, if let's say you wanted to shill your own listings, that person will actually create a dummy account and start to put bids on all the listings. Let's say he had 20 listings. Now, with this restriction in Card Hobby, one account is only allowed to bid on one item, provided that the feedback is less than 5. So you can maybe create multiple accounts to do this, but again, it's very prohibitive because you will need to do multiple verifications, right? I'm not sure Card Hobby has any restriction on the number of accounts you can create using the same name or the same phone. Okay, I'm not sure about that. Okay, but that's one of the safeguards, one of the deterrents that Card Hobby has, to prevent shill bidding. Second thing interesting that they have is they have this thing called a Card Hobby points, or the CHP system. Now, this is something that all the other platforms are not doing. How does this work? So a seller for an item, okay, can determine how much CHP a person would need to put in before he can bid, unless that person or that potential buyer has a certain number of feedback. So, your example, if a person has, if let's say they were to set 30 feedback or CHP of 100, right? So therefore, a person would need to have a minimum of 30 feedback. Otherwise, they will need to charge 100 CHP before they bid. Now, what does 100 CHP mean? 100 CHP is 100 RMB or 100 yuan. Okay, you can work out the conversions and how much is that to USD. It's just a token or a nominal sum. It's not a huge amount of money, but it's just an added layer that Card Hobby imposes on new buyers. So obviously, if you're a new account being set up, you have zero feedback. Okay, and if any of the listings require a minimum threshold for the feedback, otherwise you have to pay CHP, which means that you need to put a little bit of money down first before you're allowed to bid. Okay, so even though the amount is small, that's an extra step as well. Now, this CHP you can pay via Stripe, and you don't lose the CHP. Now, what's interesting with this CHP is it's based on what I read, you can actually offset the CHP points against the purchases, but I've not done that before because the level of feedback I have is not really sufficient. So I do actually need to maintain my CHP balance to use for my future auctions. So think about this, right? The CHP, once you actually bid on an item, or let's say, for example, it requires 100 CHP, and you charge 100 CHP to your account, and then you actually will put on an item. The item will be, the CHP will be deducted from the account until the listing ends, right? And once the listing ends, and if let's say you're not the winner, or even if you're the winner as well, the CHP does not get returned back to you immediately. It comes back to you at some point in time. Maybe you gotta wait maybe an hour. I don't really track how long you need to wait for it, but it does come back to you once the listing ends, but it's not immediately. So in the case of if you have an intention to shill when you have a zero feedback, okay, and you want to shill your own listings, you have to actually have CHPs. Okay, of course you could set as a seller, right, maybe no CHP restriction on your own listings, but that would actually invite other people to push your prices upwards, unintentionally. So It depends. So this is one of the good deterrents to make sure that card hobby has genuine people on the system to want to buy, and more like to prevent joy bidders to go around and randomly clicking on listings. One of the next restriction that they don't have an auto pay on card hobby, right? Unlike Alton, there's an auto pay. Unlike eBay, there's an auto pay. But card hobby allows you 3 days for you to make a payment once you actually win the item. Now, failure to pay for that item after 3 days will result in automatic deactivation of your account. So again, the process for you to just create accounts, to put a shill, okay, you have to go through all the steps in order to actually make a bid. And once you bid and you don't want to pay, okay, the account gets automatically deactivated, so you can't use the account again. Perhaps you can re-register again. I'm not sure what's the steps again to re-register your account or to reactivate your account. Maybe Card Hobby has certain rules about that as well. But it's interesting that they're trying to put all these tight rules in place just to prevent shill bidding or joy bidding in that sense. So I find it a bit different compared to what all the other platforms are doing. We still see shill bidding happening in the larger platforms, to my surprise, because normally I would assume a larger platform like Goldin or even Heritage as well would vet their buyers more seriously. So given a large marketplace like Card Hobby or even like eBay, you will understand that the amount of verification is a bit light, but the restrictions on the system, just to make it slightly a bit more difficult for you to shill or joy bid, goes a long way on trying to filter through what are quality listings. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that there's no shill bidding happening within Card Hobby. I've experienced shill bidding as well. You can actually do the usual checks by looking at the bid history of that particular item. You can see a particular buyer with low feedback, trying to push the prices up at fixed dollars. These are the common ways to identify shill bidding. And maybe once you see an item that's been shill bid, you probably want to just stay away completely, because there's no way for you to win the item unless you plan to snipe it towards the end. But that again, that particular seller probably has the target price and already on standby to push it to the max. Okay, so that's it for this video. I just want to share my observation with you guys, and to let you guys know that there are other ways of how they're trying to combat shill building or joy bidding in other parts of the world. Okay, that's it. Do like, subscribe for my channel. Do watch out for my next video. Till the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Kabos out.